You've seen that swing, the one that looks almost too slow to work. A Japanese pro takes the club back like he has all the time in the world, stops at the very top for a single heartbeat, and then the ball rockets 280 yards straight down the middle, and something in you says that can't be right. How does a swing that looks lazy beat a swing that looks violent? Here's the riddle that took me 3 full years to crack. 99 out of 100 Japanese tour pros swing with that same tiny stop. It isn't a fashion. It isn't an accident. It's one hidden Japanese word, and I learned it from an old man on a soaking wet driving range at the foot of Mount Rokko, near the very spot where the first round of golf in Japan was ever played back in 1903. Stay with me to the end, and I'll hand you that word. And the exact drill he made me do with a dripping wet towel until my shoulders burned. You can try it this weekend, in your own backyard, with nothing you don't already own. No new driver, no lesson, no gym, just a rhythm your body already knows and somehow forgot. Let me take you back to the first time I saw it, because I got it completely wrong. I was standing behind a young Japanese player at a public range outside Kobe. I had come to Japan chasing something else entirely, but a friend dragged me to watch this kid hit balls. And I remember thinking, this boy is going to embarrass himself. His swing looked slow, soft, almost sleepy. Where I come from, we were taught to hit down and hard, to swing out of our shoes, to feel the effort in our forearms. This kid looked like he was swinging underwater. Then the ball left the club face, and I felt the sound in my chest. It was a crack, not a slap. The ball climbed like it had been fired from something, held its line against the wind, and dropped 40 yards past where my best drive would have landed. He did it again, and again. Same slow motion, same explosion at the bottom, same little pause at the top, like a breath held for half a second before the plunge. I turned to my friend and asked him what the trick was. He just smiled and said one word I didn't understand and told me to watch the pause. So I watched the pause. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You have probably watched Hideki Matsuyama, the man who won the Masters in 2021, the first Japanese man ever to do it. Watch his swing in slow motion sometime. At the very top, the club almost stops. It hangs there. Commentators used to call it a flaw. Coaches in the West tried for years to train that pause out of players because they thought it wrecked the rhythm. But here is the thing nobody could explain to me back then. That pause isn't a break in the rhythm. That pause is the whole secret. And when I asked an American teaching pro about it, he told me it was just a quirk, a bad habit that somehow worked for a few freaks of nature. He was wrong. He was so wrong that it cost me 20 years of bad golf and a garage full of clubs I bought trying to buy the distance I could have had for free. Because that little stop at the top isn't laziness. It isn't a quirk. It's a piece of engineering that Japan built into its athletes centuries before golf ever arrived on those islands. And that's what sent me looking for the old man. His name I'll keep mostly to myself, out of respect. But everyone at that range called him by a nickname that meant something close to the sweeper, because for 40 years he had been the man who tended the grounds and quietly fixed the swings of anyone humble enough to ask. He was past 70 when I met him. His hands were like tree bark. He didn't speak much English, and my Japanese was embarrassing. So most of what he taught me with his body, with a towel, and with a bucket of range balls. The first day, I asked him to teach me to swing faster. He shook his head. He mimed the opposite, slower, softer. He pointed at my chest and then at the ground, like the answer was falling, not pushing. I thought he had misunderstood me. Therefore, I did what most stubborn men do. I ignored him and swung as hard as I could. The ball went sideways into the netting. He laughed, not cruelly, and picked up a towel that had been soaking in a bucket of water. He wrung it out just enough that it wasn't dripping, and he handed it to me, holding one end like the grip of a club. Now, a wet towel is heavy, it's floppy, you cannot force it. If you yank a wet towel down from the top, it collapses and slaps you in the back. The only way to make a wet towel crack like a whip is to let it fall, gather at the bottom, and release. He swung that towel and it made a sound like a gunshot. I swung it and it wrapped around my neck. And in that moment, standing there with a wet towel around my throat, I understood that I did not know the first thing about how power actually works. But understanding that I was ignorant is not the same as understanding the answer. Therefore, I had to keep going. And the next layer of this mystery turned out to be hidden in numbers. Here is something almost nobody outside of a small circle of coaches knows. In the early 2000s, an American named John Novosel did something obsessive. He took high-speed video of the greatest ball strikers in the world and he counted the frames, not the swing, the timing of the swing, how long the backswing took measured against how long the downswing took. And he found something that shook the teaching world, published it in a book called Tour Tempo in the year 2004. Nearly every elite player on earth, no matter their size, no matter their country, no matter their swing shape, shared one ratio. The backswing took almost exactly 3 times as long as the downswing. 3-to-1. If the backswing took 21 frames of film, the downswing took 7. If the backswing took 24, the downswing took 8. 3-to-1. Over and over and over. Now sit with that for a second. Golfers come in every shape. Tall, short, thick, thin, flexible, stiff, and yet the best of them all obey the same hidden clock. 3 counts back, 1 count down. But here is the part that made the hair stand up on my arms. When you count 3 back and 1 down, something has to happen at the top, because your body cannot go from moving up to moving down instantly without a transition. That transition, that split second where the club changes direction, is exactly where the pause lives. The 3-to-1 ratio forces a still point, and the players who own the cleanest, most repeatable version of that still point, the deepest and calmest transition, the most beautiful pause, are overwhelmingly the players trained in Japan. The old man knew nothing about frame counting. He had never heard of the book. But when I finally understood the 3-to-1 ratio and tried to show it to him with a metronome on my phone, he nodded like I had just discovered water was wet. He tapped his chest twice, slow, and then his fist dropped fast, once. He had been teaching that rhythm his entire life. He just didn't need a camera to see it. So he started counting for me, not 1, 2, 3 in English. He counted in Japanese, ichi, ni, san, and on the way down, 1 long exhale, ichi, ni, san, going back, smooth, gathering, patient, then the drop. He made me say it out loud on every single swing until it stopped being counting and started being feel. And for the first time in my life, I heard that crack come off my own club face. Not a slap, a crack. The ball jumped. I looked at him like a child, and he just pointed at the ground again, the same gesture. The answer is falling, not pushing. But tempo alone still didn't explain the whole thing. Because plenty of Western players have good tempo, and they still don't have that specific pause, that gathered stillness that 99 of 100 Japanese pros seem to be born with. Therefore, the mystery got deeper, not shallower. And to find the bottom of it, I had to stop looking at golf altogether. I had to look at things that have nothing to do with golf. And this is where it stops being a swing tip and starts being something much older and much stranger. Because that pause, That gathered stillness at the top is not a golf invention at all. It existed in Japan for hundreds of years before a single golf ball touched the ground there. It lives in the drawing of a bow in Japanese archery, in kyudo, where the archer pulls the string to full tension and then holds perfectly still in a moment they treat as sacred. The arrow is not fired by force. It is released almost as if by surprise when the stillness is complete. Fire it too early with muscle and effort, and it flies wrong every time. It lives in the sword arts, in kendo and the older schools of swordsmanship, where the deadliest strike does not come from the biggest wind-up. It comes from a coiled stillness that releases all at once. The masters had a way of describing it, a state where the body is loaded and quiet at the same time, ready to explode but not yet moving. It lives in sumo, in that frozen crouch before two enormous men collide, where the whole match can be decided in the quality of the pause before the charge. It even lives in the brush. In Japanese calligraphy, there is a beat of stillness before the stroke, a loading of intention, so that when the brush finally moves, it moves with total commitment and cannot be taken back. There is a Japanese idea, a single concept that runs through all of it. The stillness that is not empty, the pause that is actually full, the moment where energy is stored and gathered instead of spent. And when golf arrived in Japan, the Japanese did not learn it the way the West taught it. They filtered it through everything their culture already knew about power. They saw a golf swing and they recognized an old friend. They already knew that real power does not come from rushing. It comes from gathering, then releasing. Let me put the history on the table because I promised you it would sound like buried research rather than vague ancient wisdom, and it does. Golf did not grow up in Japan. It was carried there. An English merchant named Arthur Hesketh Groom, who had made his life in the port city of Kobe, built the country's first golf course high on the slopes of Mount Rokko. He started with a handful of holes around 1901, and the Kobe Golf Club opened properly in 1903. That's the beginning of the whole story. A foreign game planted on a Japanese mountain by a foreign man. But here is what happened next, and it's the hinge the entire mystery turns on. The game was foreign, but the bodies that learned it were not. The first generations of Japanese golfers had grown up in a culture soaked in these older disciplines, or at least surrounded by them. They did not approach the swing as an act of aggression. They approached it as an act of timing and gathering, the way their grandfathers approached the bow and the brush. And that approach got passed down, teacher to student, decade after decade, until it became so normal on the Japanese tour that nobody even questions it anymore. It just looks like the way you swing. Meanwhile, in the West, we were being sold a different story entirely. And this is the part that still makes me angry, because I paid for that story with my own money for 2 decades. Somebody profited from you believing that distance comes from effort. Think about it. If the truth is that power comes from rhythm and stillness and letting the club fall, then the answer is free. You can't sell free. But if you can convince a man that his lack of distance is a lack of speed, and that speed comes from strength, and that strength comes from the newest driver with the newest shaft and the newest launch monitor session and the newest training aid strapped to his arm, then you have a customer for life. And I was that customer. I bought the drivers, I bought the shafts, I bought the lessons where a man told me to swing harder, I bought a device that beeped at me. None of it gave me what a wet towel and an old man's counting gave me in a single afternoon. So picture yourself right now, standing in your garage, surrounded by the drivers and the gadgets that never fixed a thing, still fighting that same slice, still coming over the top with every swing, That fight has a permanent fix, and it's the same one I've been building this whole channel around, the Kaizen swing system. It's the full Japanese framework laid out for you in plain steps, over 410 pages of real content, so you can diagnose your exact fault before you change a single thing, understand why your trail elbow betrays you, and finally kill that over-the-top move for good in 8 weeks of deliberate practice. And you don't have to take my word for a single page of it. Tonight, before bed, do the very thing this video already showed you. Grab a wet towel, take it back on a slow 3 count, let it hang, and let it fall on one exhale. If you hear that sharp snap at the bottom on your own, in your own home, you've just proven to yourself that stored power is real and free. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. Your bad swing is costing you strokes and sore shoulders every single round you play right now, and that bill keeps running until you fix the cause instead of the symptom. But I promised you the old man's actual secret, the one word he built everything around. So stay right here, because that's exactly what comes next. The equipment industry did not bury this on purpose in some smoky room, but an industry built on selling you speed has no reason on earth to tell you that the fastest players in the world are the ones who look like they're swinging the slowest. That knowledge is bad for business. And so, slowly, quietly, over generations, the West forgot what Japan never let go of. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now, and I built this next part just for you. You're thinking, that's fine for a young tour pro with a flexible body. You're thinking, I'm 68 years old, my shoulders don't turn like they used to, and I'm sitting on my couch watching this on my television, not standing on a range in Kobe. You're thinking this is a Japan thing, a young man's thing, a rich man's thing, and it has nothing to do with your Saturday round with your buddies or the stiff swing you've got now. I'm telling you that you, specifically, are the person this helps the most. Because everything I just described costs the young and strong nothing. They can get away with bad tempo because they have raw speed to burn. You can't. Which means for you, rhythm isn't a luxury. Rhythm is the whole game. The older I got, the more I realized that the men who kept striking it well into their 70s and 80s were never the strong ones. They were the smooth ones, the gatherers, the ones who never rushed. So here is what I want you to do this week in your own home with things you already own. You do not need a golf course. You do not need to be able to walk 18 holes. You need a hand towel and a kitchen sink. Take an ordinary bath towel or hand towel, wet it under the tap and wring it out until it's heavy but not dripping. Now hold one end of it in both hands like you're gripping a golf club, and stand in a doorway or your backyard where you've got room, and I want you to swing it slowly. Take it back and count to yourself 3 beats, ichi, ni, san, or just 1, 2, 3, nice and even. At the top, don't yank it. Feel the weight of the wet towel hang for just a fraction of a second. Then let it fall and release through the bottom. You will know instantly when you get it wrong, because a wet towel punishes force. Yank it, and it collapses. No crack, no snap. But when you get the timing right, when you let it gather at the top and release without forcing, that towel will make a sharp snap at the bottom of the arc. That snap is the exact same event as the crack off a professional's club face. It's stored energy releasing at the right instant. Do that 20 times in the morning and 20 times at night. Your body will start to learn the shape of it. And the beautiful thing is, a wet towel is safe. You can do it at any age. You can do it sitting in a chair if your legs aren't what they were. Your nervous system doesn't care how old you are, it just learns the rhythm. That's the everyday version, and it works. But I promised you the old man's actual secret, the exact thing he gave me, and now I'm going to keep that promise because there's one final piece that turns this from a nice drill into the thing that changed my golf forever. Here is the word my friend said to me on that first day, the word I couldn't understand, the word the old man built his whole teaching around, tame. It's spelled Tame, but it's said closer to tame, and it does not have a clean English translation, which is exactly why we lost it. The closest I can give you is this. Tame means the stored up, the gathered, the held. It's the fullness inside a pause. It's the tension in the drawn bow before the arrow flies. It's the coil in the sumo wrestler before the charge. It's the loaded stillness at the top of the golf swing where every ounce of energy is gathered and waiting, not yet spent. Japanese coaches use this exact word when they teach the swing. They tell a student he has good tame or he has no tame. It is a real, living piece of golf vocabulary in Japan, and almost no one in the West has ever heard it. And this is the thing that broke my brain when the old man finally made me feel it. Tame is not something you do at the top. Tame is something you create early in the transition by letting your lower body start down while your arms and the club are still finishing going back. For one impossible feeling instant, you are going two directions at once. The hips begin to unwind toward the target while the club is still floating up and back. That is the pause, you see. That is the still point. That is what looks so slow. It's not slow at all. It's the most powerful moment in all of sport, and it's happening in total silence. He taught it to me with one more thing after the towel, and this is the part I want you to remember more than anything else. He taught me to breathe it. He had me take the club back on a slow inhale, Ichi Nisan, breathing in the whole time, filling up. Then, at the top, the tiniest hold, the tame, the gather, everything full and quiet. And then the downswing came out on a long exhale, one single beat, a soft ha pushed out through the mouth as the club fell. The breath was the rhythm, the inhale was the three, the exhale was the one, and the pause between them, the top of the breath, was the tame. I want you to understand where that breathing comes from, because it is not something a golf coach dreamed up. That is the breathing of the old disciplines. It is the breath of the archer holding at full draw. It is the breath control the sword schools taught. It is the same principle that ran through Japanese martial and artistic training for centuries, applied to a Scottish game on a mountain above Kobe. The old man didn't invent it. His teacher didn't invent it. It came down a line of people who each refused to let it die, all the way back to a time before golf existed, and it landed on a wet range in the hands of a man with bark for skin who handed it to a stubborn foreigner who didn't deserve it. And now I'm handing it to you. So here is exactly what you do this weekend, and it costs you nothing. Wet towel in your hands, or a real club if you've got room and you're steady on your feet. Take it back slow on an inhale, 3 even counts. At the top, hold the breath for just a heartbeat and feel everything gather. That's your tame. Then let it fall on one long exhale and feel the snap come at the bottom all by itself. You are not trying to make speed. You are trying to store it and get out of its way. 20 repetitions, twice a day. That's it. Then the next time you get to a range, don't hit at the ball. Swing to the breath. 3 in, gather, 1 out. Let the strike be a surprise, the way the arrow surprises the archer. I promise you, the first time you hear that crack instead of a slap, you'll feel exactly what I felt behind that young man in Kobe. You'll feel it in your chest, and you'll wonder, like I did, why nobody ever told you. Because that's the truth at the heart of all of this. Nobody ever told you that the slowest looking swing in the world is the fastest where it counts. Nobody ever told you the pause is not a flaw, it's the engine. Nobody ever told you that the power you've been chasing with your wallet has been sitting inside a 500-year-old idea the whole time, free, waiting, gathered, and still. You just recovered something that was quietly taken from you and sold back to you in pieces. That word tame and the breath that carries it is not a swing tip. It's a piece of buried craft, kept alive by people who understood that real power was never about force. And you are exactly the kind of person who suspected that all along. The kind who felt deep down that the answer was probably simpler and older and cheaper than everyone kept insisting. You were right. You were right the whole time. So do this for me. Go try the wet towel drill and then come back and tell me one thing. Tell me whether you heard the snap, that sharp crack at the bottom on your very first session, or whether it took you a few tries to find it. I read those, and I want to know how fast it clicks for people. Leave it in the comments right now, before you forget. And tell me your age too, because I have a hunch the men in their 70s are going to feel this faster than the young ones, and I want to prove it. And if some part of you always suspected that the useful knowledge, the real stuff, keeps getting shelved so someone can sell you the expensive version, then you already belong here. Subscribe and stand with the rest of us who are digging these things back up one at a time. Because the next thing I'm going to show you is what that same old man told me about the Japanese grip. The one small change in where the left thumb sits that he swore was the difference between a swing that lasts 20 years and a swing that wrecks your hands by 60. He showed me on the same wet range with the same bark-covered hands, and I've never seen anyone in the West teach it the way he did. But that's a story for next time. For now, go find a towel, wet it, and listen for the crack. The old man is gone, but that sound is still his, and now it's yours. Now, this video showed you why that little pause works. But inside the Japanese way circle, I pick up right where we just stopped, walking you through the sweeper's wet towel drill step by step. And if something isn't clicking, you can ask me directly, and I answer you myself, not some machine. You'll belong among thousands of curious folks like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime. Now, if you want that smooth swing to really click, there's one small move that changes everything. It's about fixing your right elbow in the downswing. The same trick Japan's pros rely on is starting right here